stood up, took off his overcoat, and having given himself a start on the rough ice near the shelter, glided down to the smooth surface of the lake, increasing and diminishing his speed and shaping his course as if by volition only. He approached Kitty timidly, but her smile again tranquilized him. She gave him her hand, and they went on together, increasing their speed, and the faster they went, the closer she pressed his hands. "I should learn quicker with you. For some reason, I feel confidence in you," she said. "And I'm confident of myself when you lean on me," he answered, and was immediately frightened of what he had said, and blushed. And in fact, as soon as he had uttered these words, her face lost its kind expression, as when the sun hides behind a cloud, and Levin noticed that familiar play of her features which indicated an effort of mind. A wrinkle appeared on her smooth forehead. "Has anything unpleasant happened?" "But I have no right to ask," he said hurriedly. "Why? No, nothing unpleasant has happened," she answered coldly, adding immediately, "You have not seen Kareninna? Not yet. Go to her then. She is so fond of you." "What does she mean? I have heard her. Help me, O Lord." Though Levin, hastening towards the old Frenchwoman with the grey curls, who sat on one of the benches, she welcomed Levin as an old friend, showing her set of false teeth in a smile. "Yes, you see we grow up," she said, indicating Kitty with a glance, "and grow old. Tiny Bear is grown up," continued the Frenchwoman, laughing and reminding him of his old joke when he called the three young ladies the three bears of the English fairy tale. "Do you remember when you used to call her so?" He had not the faintest recollection of it, but she was fond of the joke and had laughed at it for the last 10 years. "Well, go and skate. Our Kitty is beginning to skate nicely, isn't she?" When Levin returned to Kitty, her face was no longer stern, and her eyes had their former truthful, kindly look. But he thought there was an intentionally quiet manner in her affability, and he felt sad. Having spoken about her old governess and her peculiarities, she asked him about his way of life. "Do you really manage not to feel dull in the country in winter?" she said. "I don't feel at all dull. I'm very busy," he answered, conscious that she was subduing him to her quiet tone, from which, as had happened at the beginning of the winter, he would not be able to free himself. "Have you come for long?" asked Kitty. "I don't know," he answered, without thinking of what he was saying. The idea that if he accepted her tone of calm friendliness, he would again go without having settled anything occurred to him, and he determined to rebel. "You don't know?" "I don't. It all depends on you," he said, and was at once terrified at his own words. Whether she had not heard his words or did not wish to hear them, anyhow, after slightly stumbling and striking her foot twice against the ice, she skated hurriedly away from him toward Kareninna, said something to her, and went toward the little house where the ladies took off their skates. "My God, what have I done? Oh Lord, help me and teach me," prayed Levin. And feeling at the same time a need of violent exercise, he got up speed and described inner and outer circles. Just then a young man, the best of the new skaters, with a cigarette in his mouth and skates on, came out of the coffee room and, taking a run, descended the steps leading to the lake, clattering with his skates as he jumped from step to step. He then flew down the slope and glided along the ice without so much as changing the easy position of his arms. "Oh, that's a new trick," said Levin, and at once ran up to try the new trick. "Don't hurt yourself, it needs practice," Nicholas Sherbatsky called out. Levin went up the path as far back as he could to get up speed and then slid downwards, balancing himself with his arm in this unaccustomed movement. He caught his foot on the last step, but, scarcely touching the ice with his hand, made a violent effort, regained his balance, and skated away laughing. "Good, dear man," thought Kitty, who at that moment was just coming out of the little house with Miller Lennon, looking at him with a smile and gentle tenderness as a dear brother. "Can I really be guilty? Have I really done anything wrong? They say it's coquetting. I know it's not him I love, but still, I feel happy with him. He's so charming. Only, why did he say that?" she thought. When he saw Kitty, who was going away, and her mother, who had met her on the steps, Levin, flushed with the violent exercise, stood still and considered. He then took off his skates and overtook mother and daughter at the gates of the gardens. "Very pleased to see you," said the princess. "We are at home on Thursdays, as usual, and today is Thursday. We shall be glad to see you," said the princess dryly. Kitty was sorry to hear that dry tone and could not resist the desire to counteract her mother's coldness. She turned her head and said smilingly, "Au revoir." Just then Oblonsky, his hat tilted on one side, with radiant face and eyes, walked into the gardens like a joyous conqueror. But on approaching his mother-in-law, he answered her question about Dolly's health with a sorrowful and guilty air. After a few words with her in a subdued and mournful tone, he expanded his chest and took Levin's arm. "Well, shall we go?" he asked. "I kept thinking about you, and am very, very glad you've come," he went on, looking significantly into Levin's eyes. Yes, let's go," answered the happy Levin, still hearing the voice saying au revoir, and still seeing the smile with which had been said. "The Angleterre or the Hermitage? I don't care." "Well then, the Angleterre," said Oblonsky, choosing Angleterre because he was deeper in debt to that restaurant than to the Hermitage, and therefore considered it wrong to avoid it. "Have you a sledge?" "That's a good thing, because I've sent my coachman home." The two friends were silent all the way. Levin was considering what the change in Kitty's face meant, now persuading himself that there was hope, now in despair, seeing clearly that such hope was madness, but yet feeling an altogether different being from what he had been before her smile and the words au revoir. Oblonsky, during the drive, was composing the menu of their dinner. "You like turbo, don't you?" he asked, as they drove up to the restaurant. "What?" said Levin. "Turbo. Oh yes, I'm awfully fond of turbo." Chapter 10. When they entered the restaurant, Levin could not help noticing something peculiar in his friend's expression, a kind of suppressed radiance in his face and whole figure. Oblonsky took off his overcoat and with his hat on one side walked into the dining room, giving his orders to the Tartar waiters in their swallow-tail coats with napkins under their arms, who attached themselves to him, bowing right and left to his acquaintances who, here as elsewhere, greeted him joyfully. He passed on to the buffet, drank a glass of vodka and ate a bit of fish as hors d'oeuvre, and said something to the painted Frenchwoman, bedecked with ribbons and lace, who sat at the little counter, something that made even his Frenchwoman burst into frank laughter. Levin did not take any vodka, simply because that Frenchwoman made up, as it seemed to him, of false hair, powder, and toilet vinegar was offensive to him. He moved away from her as from some dirty place. His whole soul was filled with Kitty's image, and his eyes shone with a smile of triumph and happiness. "This way, please, Your Excellency. This way. No one will disturb Your Excellency here," said a specially officious waiter, an old white-headed Tartar, so wide in the hips that the tails of his coat separated behind. "If you please, Your Excellency," he said, turning to Levin and, as a mark of respect to Oblonsky, paying attention to his guest. In a moment he had spread a fresh cloth on a round table, already covered with a cloth beneath a bronze chandelier, moved two velvet chairs to the table, and stood with a napkin and a menu waiting in the order. "If Your Excellency would like a private room, one will be vacant in a few moments. Prince Golitsyn is there with a lady, with some fresh oysters in, sir." "Ah, oysters." Oblonsky paused and considered. "Shall we change our plan, Levin?" he said, with his finger on the bill of fare and his face expressing serious perplexity. "But are the oysters really good? Now be careful. Real Flensburg, Your Excellency. We've no Ostend ones. They may be Flensburg, but are they fresh? They only arrived yesterday. Well then, shall we begin with oysters and change the plan of our dinner, eh?" "I don't mind. I like buckwheat porridge and cabbage soup best, but they don't have those things here." Would you like a buckwheat à la Russe?" said the Tartar, stopping over Levin like a nurse over a child. "No, joking apart, whatever you choose will suit me. I've been skating, I'm hungry." "Don't think that I do not appreciate your choice," he added, noticing a dissatisfied look at Oblonsky's face. "I shall be glad of a good dinner." "I should think so. Say what you like. It is one of the pleasures of life," said Oblonsky. "Well then, my good fellow, bring us two, or that will be too little. 3 dozen oysters, and vegetable soup." "Printanier," chimed in the waiter. But Oblonsky evidently did not wish to give the pleasure of calling the dishes by their French names. "Vegetable, you know. Then turbot with a thick sauce. Then roast beef, and mind it's good. And then capon, shall we say? Yes, and stewed fruit." The waiter, remembering Oblonsky's way of calling the items on the French menu by their Russian names, did not repeat the words after him, but afterwards allowed himself the pleasure of repeating the whole of the order according to the menu. Potage, printanier, turbot, sauce, bombshells, pollard, l'estragon, macédoine de fruit. And immediately, as he moved by spring, he put down the bill of fare in the one card, board or cover, and seizing another containing the wine list, held it out to Oblonsky. "What shall we have to drink?" "Whatever you like, only not too much. Champagne," said Levin. "What, to begin with? However, why not? You like the white seal?" "Cachet blanc," chimed in the waiter. "Yes, bring us that with the oysters, and then we'll see." "Yes, sir." "And what sort of table wine?" No. Let's have the classic Chablis." "Yes, sir." "And your special cheese?" "Well, yes, Parmesan." "Or do you prefer some other kind?" "No, I really don't care," said Levin, unable to restrain a smile. The Tartar darted off, his coat-tails flying, and 5 minutes later rushed in again with a dish of open oysters in a pearly shells and bottle between his fingers. Oblonsky crumpled his starched napkin and pushed a corner of it inside his waistcoat. Then, with his arms comfortably on the table, attacked the oysters. "Not bad," he said, pulling the quivering oysters out of the pearly shells with a silver fork and swallowing one after another. "Not bad," he repeated, lifting his moist and glittering eyes now to Levin, now to the Tartar. Levin could eat oysters, though he preferred bread and cheese, but it gave him more pleasure to watch Oblonsky. Even the Tartar, who having drawn the cork and poured the sparkling wine into the thin, white glasses, was straightening his white tie, glanced with a smile of evident pleasure at Oblonsky. "You don't care much for oysters," said Oblonsky, emptying his champagne glass. "Or perhaps you are thinking something else, eh?" He wanted Levin to be in a good spirits, but Levin, if not exactly in bad spirits, felt constrained. The feelings that filled his heart made him ill at ease and uncomfortable in this restaurant with its private rooms where men took women to dine. Everything seemed offensive. These bronzes, mirrors, gaslights, and Tartar waiters. He was afraid of soiling that which filled his soul. Yes, I'm preoccupied, and besides, all this makes me feel constrained," he said. "You can't imagine how strange it all seemed to me who live in the country, like the nails of that gentleman I saw at your place." "Yes, I noticed that poor Greenwich nails interested you greatly," said Oblonsky.